everyone for coming to our session today. And before we dive into our webinar of mobile ready hero images, we want to start with a cartoon that is one of those funny but true type of ideas and this really fits what we're going to be talking about today. So we're in a world that is mobile first, and a lot of the web designs are still not optimized to user experience, to the different type of screens that we use. We're using a lot of small mobiles, then tablets, and also desktops. There's quite some brands that now are doing this. So for example, Apple has their whole ad campaign around having the same message but for different media and as well as channels. So for example, longer ads, also shorter bumper ads, and print. But this is something that we'll be delving into today in terms of what we need to be doing to improve the user experience in the different type of screens that we're using and in a mobile first world. So what we're going to be touching upon today is that we are mobile first, and this actually has a lot of implications in terms of users, consumers, and how we shop online. And this also has implications on how we behave on our phones and on our mobile devices, which makes imagery very important because we're now really, really visual and we're just scanning through our phones. And this means that when we're shopping online, traditional pack shot images are not good enough, and we need to optimize for a better user experience. And finally, we're going to close with a few of SKIM's e-commerce toolkits that we use in terms of research solutions for our clients when they need to understand a bit more of how we behave around the e-commerce space. So to begin with, we are at a world where 94% global smartphone penetration. So there's been only 10 years since the first smartphone came out, and now almost everyone has one or two, depending on how many we have depending for work. Another big phenomena that we see is online shopping penetration. Right now we're at 60%, and we see that for some markets that are growing really fast, actually they're jumping up to not even using desktop like other mature markets, but just everything is done on mobile as well. So we see that this is something that is changing the landscape, not only mobile phones, but also online shopping. And it means that we are behaving differently in our phones. So we're scrolling much faster on mobile than we do on our desktop. Actually, Facebook released some data that said that 1.5% faster scroll on their mobile app in difference from their website. And this means that we're actually visually scanning different images because it's quicker to look than to read. So here is an example of how someone and a consumer shops online. We see here that we're basically looking at the pack shot, maybe a little bit of the title, but we're going really, really fast and making our decisions. And this is the new reality for shopping online. And as it is growing so much, we need to adapt to this reality. So here we see that when you see this icon, you know what it means. You need to cross the street here to pass the other way. But if I say it to you, if you were to have to read it and say, okay, if you cross here, please go the other way, you wouldn't read it. Your mind will really just see visually and try to scan and understand quickly. So this is how we're behaving on our phones. And then another issue arises, which is the mobile conversion gap. We are a lot on our phones. Most of us have a smartphone, but still around 20% of consumers say that they don't convert on mobile. So that means that they don't shop online because there's issues with seeing the product detail and understanding it. And also navigation is not so easy. So there's an issue there in terms of the user experience that we're offering to consumers in order to be able to convert on mobile. So in terms of shopping online, we need to find a solution for this. And here's where mobile ready hero images come in, which are a category first approach, which are developing better primary e-commerce images to allow shoppers to understand the product better and identify it by the recognition of 4 basic elements, which are brand, format, variant, and also pack count or pack size. So by identifying these 4 elements in the product, it is easy to know which product you're looking for. Let's see an example here. This is an example of shopping online in the mobile. So if you have a regular pack shot, you'll see that it's about the size of a euro coin. And if I ask you, would you be able to identify the brand? Well, maybe, because it's a brand that we see a lot in the store, so we can identify it from before. Is it a shampoo or a conditioner? Probably not. We don't know what it is because it's such a small image that we cannot identify it quite quickly. What about if it's either for color or for keratin smooth, which is the variant? So what type of product are you buying? It is very hard to recognize as well. And finally, can we identify the size? It is very hard to know, and for all we know, we could be buying a travel size pack rather than your normal shampoo. So we kind of fail here shopping online with this normal pack shot. But what if we see the same example online, but with a mobile ready hero image? So could we identify the brand? Yes. How about if it's a shampoo and conditioner? It is very well identified on this right hand side. Also, what type of product it is quite clear with the medium zoom. We'll come back to the different types of zooms in terms of hero images, and then we can easily identify the size of the shampoo as well. So it's 600 milliliters. So what we did here is, with the same size of design, we actually were able to optimize a product image for easier understanding of what type of product it is, size, variant, and format as well. So using just a more efficient design, we're able to improve the user experience. Now, we have at SKIM, a lot of our clients come to us with different questions around e-commerce. And there's many ways of looking at this. There's many different questions around, okay, where do people go? Where are their behaviors? And for example, when we want to know all the different touch points and decision parts and actually parties that go into making a decision, we have decision journey modeling, which really helps us understand all the steps into making a purchase decision. Also, if we want to know more about the behavior of online shopping, we've done quite some eye tracking to understand what people really see, what is highlighted, where do people focus the gaze. And this really has helped us as well to create solutions around e-content optimization. So after we know what people look at, what is being actually browsed, we can also optimize those type of content that people read. But for this specific issue and problem that the Ollie and the Unilever team came to us, we came up with an approach that actually combines web replication with advanced choice-based conjoint analytics. So Ollie and his team came to us and asked, okay, we want to test all these different type of images which are optimized for e-commerce, but we're going to try it for different categories and also for desktop and mobile. And this was a huge challenge for us because obviously thinking of testing this live is quite a difficult thing to do. So what we decided to do is a web replication like we see now. And we see that we have all the different stages of the shopping part on Amazon, and we have the category page, then the specific individual product page, as well as the basket part. And in this case, we tested different ways of hero images. So with, as I said, like medium zoom, larger zoom, a normal pack shot, just to understand how conversion works. And we can use this replication in many other applications as well. So for example, we've used it in trying to interrupt the shopping experience by showing ads to understand how that affects behavior. And what is very important of this method is that it really offers flexibility in terms of testing different categories. Obviously, buying deodorant is very different than purchasing, for example, coffee. So we're able to test many different categories in once. And also we go from, well, could be a few different scenarios. So from A to B testing to testing many different scenarios to AZ testing, because we can combine all different types of characteristics in terms of what we test. And finally, do hero image work? So our projects actually do show that hero images increase conversion. And what is very interesting is that we tested different categories and they do increase conversion differently in the categories, but we also see that they do work for mobile. Of course, they're optimized for it and they were created with that in mind, but we also see that they work on PC and desktop. So these images actually really help to improve the user experience online for many different challenges. And now I'm going to pass it over to Ollie so he can tell us where are here images now?
Thank you, Patricia. It's been fabulous as Unilever working with SKIM on this project. And I wanted to rewind a little bit. So by way of quick introduction, I'm based in London. I'm in the global e-commerce team, and we've been working with both SKIM and Cambridge University on this project since mid-2013. And I kind of wanted to rewind and talk about where we started with Hero Images in 2012. And I'm responsible for this mess here, because one of the things we did is we did a whole lot of eye tracking, and we noticed that the most common mistake that people made when shopping online was being able to see from the thumbnail image what the quantity was, what the size was, what the pack count was. And the reason people were adding to basket from the thumbnail image is because most of the missions in grocery.com are replenishment missions. They're buying the same thing. And maybe they're buying a different pack size, but they're buying the same thing. And actually, we also noticed from some Omnicheck clickstream work that we did that 98% of people didn't bother to go to the product detail page. They were adding to basket from the thumbnail. So we added these number of washes to our laundry packs, a number of servings to our Knorr packs, in order to try and make it easier for the shopper to see. But I don't think these were very good designs, because they are pretty shouty and pretty disruptive with red and yellow. And we since went to Cambridge and to other design companies to help us to create something that was more visually consistent and helpful. So we'll talk about that. So where we are now is we have created a template with Cambridge University for tall, thin products, which is predominantly our personal care products or toiletries, and where it's impossible to get all 4 elements of brand, format, variant, size, and pack count onto the front of pack. It's very easy to optimize and declutter a square pack like Dove Bar, PG Tips, Lipton Tea, and create a very clean, square, mobile ready here image. It's very difficult on a top-down tube or to be able to squeeze all 4 elements on. And that's why we needed to do, in particular, size of pack. And we decided, because we know that shoppers read in a Z-based pattern, to put size bottom right. And as you can see, the template also, we have a very consistent template with the same typeface. It doesn't have much personality, so it really doesn't interfere with the branding. On ice cream, we learned a simple truth. Shoppers want to know what's inside. And when we took the lids off Ben & Jerry's and Magnum, we got fantastic results, and I'll talk about that in a minute. On some packs, we didn't need the long vertical strips, because it's really obvious that Marmite is Marmite and Hellmann's is mayonnaise, so we didn't actually have to announce that, because you could recognize that from just looking at the pack itself. I wanted to show you some of our, I guess, other suppliers or some of our competitors who've followed the Cambridge approach and are doing mobile-ready hero images. So Bayer with Rennies and Barocca. Bayersdorf with Nivea, who we compete head-on with Dove, have copied the Cambridge template for tall, thin products. GlaxoSmithKline, and they compete with us in oral care, are using the Cambridge template, and it's making it a lot easier to find your variant through the colorway. In terms of calling out whitening, you look for the gray one. Extra fresh, you look for the dark green one. Very easy to work out what you're looking at. Kimberly-Clark, most of their products are square, so in some ways they had it easy, because you can optimize Kleenex and Andrex by just cleaning up and decluttering the pack and making it really easy to see the size on the front of pack. But good work nevertheless. General Mills, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It's an exact copy of our Magnum packaging. Haagen-Dazs is an exact copy of our Ben & Jerry's, taking the lids off. They've seen it's worked for us. It's working for them, I'm sure, too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. Kellogg's optimizing the square. The Cambridge S1 maximized the square. Very iconic rooster on cornflakes. Declutter the pack. Size bottom right. Make it really easy to see what you're looking at in fast scroll. Reckitt Benckiser, also using the Cambridge template for tall, thin packs. Nestle Purina Pet Care, using the Cambridge template again, size bottom right, variant color in the vertical strip. Mars Pet Care have decluttered their front of pack and simplified it. They're using a kind of S1 approach, as Cambridge would call it, maximize the square. J&J using the vertical template strips with medium zooms in order to make it easier to see brand and variant. Procter & Gamble, again, we compete with P&G head-on, so it's great to see them follow up some of our work. Pampers is really easy. Obviously, you maximize the square, and you can talk about both the pack count as well as the kind of the age of the baby. On the front of pack, you can see that they've started using the vertical strips in all their tall, thin products because they realize that it's quite difficult to communicate on a very narrow pack what you're looking at. L'Oreal using the Cambridge template as well. Mars, again, using the Cambridge template. These here images are live in Australia. Mondelez, again, using the vertical strips for some of their tall, thin products. Nestle on their coffee products, again, using the Cambridge vertical strip templates. And then on some of the products, which is really obvious what they are, they haven't bothered to use the vertical strip, which is like what we've done on Coleman's and Marmite and Hellman's, which is great. And you can see they've optimized their water products by making it really easy to see the size of the bottle by calling out the 1.5 liter in massive text. It doesn't look like that on a normal photograph. That's been digitally enhanced so that you can read. And then PepsiCo, this is some of the best examples we've seen of multi-packs, taking the product out of the pack, like the Walker's Marmite, and showing that there's 6 smaller packs inside, calling out the minis on their mini cans so that you don't make the mistake and assume that's a 330 ml. And then Danone, very similar to Nestle's Buxton Water, optimizing and making it really clear which is the 1.5 liter, which is the 500 ml, so people don't go home with the wrong bottle size if they order online. So hopefully that gives you a kind of flavor of the work that we've done. And now I wanted to kind of close with 7 reasons to follow, copy, steal, and use our work. I think the first is, importantly, and this is kind of the foundation, is we have done extensive research, quantitative research with SKIM, 3,000 shoppers, 135 hero images tested against 35 pack shots, and in particular on both mobile and desktop, and proven uplifts across all screen sizes, so uplifts of anything from 4% to 48% lift in the designs that we tested. We have managed to get 300 brands globally following us with mobile ready hair images. 80 Unilever global brands have mobile ready hair images. We're live in more than 76 retailers. Actually, it keeps going up week by week. This week it's 83. This is slightly out of date, but that doesn't matter. We're live in over 35 countries. We've worked very hard to create a solution that is a category solution rather than a branded solution, and make sure that we do things in a very visually consistent way and make that template available for all suppliers to use. So the Google typeface, which is Google Open Sans for the vertical strip and the size box, and size is always bottom right, and the same color rules. The variant color is carried in the longer strip, and the brand color is carried in the size box. We've also done usability testing in terms of with Cambridge University from 1 meter away, looking at a 16mm image without having to read the product title, because it's not natural for shoppers to read the product title. They don't like being forced to read the product title. Can somebody recognize the brand, format, variant, and read the size from 1 meter away, looking at that 16mm image on mobile? And that is a pass. So the Cambridge University test is 75% of the UK adult population should be able to pass. And there's some examples on the left-hand side of mobile ready hero images that have been tested by Cambridge University that passed their inclusive design test. In terms of the commercials, so they've been proven in A/B split tests. So this is actually live with retailers rather than SKIM. The vertical strips and horizontal strip ones, like you see on Simple on the screen, did a 19.6% lift in an A/B split test. The Magnum mobile ready hero images, a 24% lift in an A/B split test. So that strips out any promotional effect. It's just the hero image making the difference. Lastly, and importantly, is we have generously made all our work available through Cambridge University for anybody to use, download. On the free downloads area, you'll be able to find the templates to download, both for the personal care templates and also for laundry for the number of washes. Obviously, as Unilever, we only work across a few categories. We don't pretend to have created a solution for every category. And I encourage you to join the GS1 working group with mobile ready hero images if you haven't already, and come and work with us on an industry solution. I'm going to hand back now to Patricia.
Thank you, Ollie. So now to close, just a few things that we've discussed today. Again, we are in a mobile first world, and that means we need to adapt as the landscape is shifting. Actually, I was just reading an article the other day that says that this holiday season, it is projected that online sales are going to actually surpass in the US for retail sales. So that says a lot. So how we are behaving with our phone, interacting with our phones, makes the way we shop and we behave differently. And that means that imagery is actually becoming the most important one. And that as we've shown here with the mobile ready hero images, traditional pack shots are actually not enough and actually create this gap in terms of conversion online. And finally, we see that we have different e-commerce tools that can help at SKIM, can help you in terms of your e-commerce questions, solutions, etc. And it's something that we see that we learn constantly. It's something that when we have something figured out, we see we have new questions because our behavior as consumers and as humans is changing constantly. So we leave the conversation open as too many questions in terms of your e-commerce needs. And finally, I want to say that this is actually a design-led initiative, that the main thing is that we keep learning and that we keep making things better for people and actually for consumers to make the usability better, to make also online shopping better and easier to do. So the important thing as well is that we are making decisions using data rather than opinions on what works, and this makes a very strong case. So with that, we're going to close our webinar, but we want to thank you. And I see some questions coming in. I think we have time for a few. Okay, so this one is for Ollie. So this is on visual consistency. How can you ensure this, seeing that all of these different retailers and brands are taking it on?
Yeah, so that's a common kind of retailer objection to wanting to take mobile ready images, because I guess pack shots, you know, they are consistent from the point of view is you take a photograph of the product with a white background and you're done. Everybody kind of looks the same. But in reality, pack shots just don't work on mobile at all. So people saying, well, I prefer pack shots because they're visually consistent is silly, because mobile has already passed tipping point in terms of delivering over 50% of e-commerce transactions in the UK, and certainly in many big markets that's very true. Japan and South Korea no exception. So how do we do that? Well, I think one of the things is to template the design. So we've tried to do that in terms of saying, well, where you have a product that is square, it's quite okay to declutter it and actually just the four remaining things of brand, format, variant, size. And actually, if you're maximizing the square, you're going to use your own brand typeface and it's entirely your canvas. So you don't have to worry that much about consistency of putting size in a certain place when you've got the entire square. I think well, the controversy comes in terms of when you're using text off pack. And if you have to, and you do have to on tall, thin products, then size should always be in the same place, should always be bottom right. And we know that because that's shoppers actually look in the Z pattern when they actually look at something. So it makes sense to finish with size on the bottom right. The second thing is to make sure that we do it in an extremely strict, rigorous way. So always the same typeface, which is, as I said, Open Sans Bold. It's a free typeface from Google that anybody can download and use. So we've made it accessible to even the smallest supplier to be able to download the template for free and create their own hero images. How could they do that? Well, they could just do a crop of their pack shot and do a medium zoom crop of their pack shot and put the vertical strip on the right-hand side and you're done. And that doesn't cost a lot of money. In fact, I could do it myself in Photoshop in about 30 seconds. So the objection about people going, achieving visual consistency is difficult is nonsense. It's very easy to achieve. Thank you for that question.
All right, thank you, Ollie. And there's one more I think we have, and then we'll answer the other ones separately via email. So this one is more for SKIM in terms of, okay, why did we go for such a traditional methodology, which is conjoint, in order to test all of this, which is e-commerce, and there's so many other new methods to do. So for us, it was more in terms of how flexible this method combined with vector replication is in terms of testing not only different products, brands, categories, as well as the different types of images that we wanted to test. So for example, horizontal stripes, vertical stripes, different types of zoom, etc. And that really gave us that flexibility. So it's a great method to really understand how it works online with the low risk of not being really live and understanding all of the nuances of the online shopping part and the optimization of the user experience without having to really go live but with the same results, because we're really mimicking the real life e-commerce experience. So with that, I think we'll close and we'll hand it back to our host.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you guys and speak to you today.
Yes. Bye.
Thanks, Patricia. Bye, guys.